12:01. So I'm going to jump into the topic for today. You can all hear me, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. So what we're going to talk about, hang on. There we go. That's better. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is 10 common mistakes that I see new agents make. So I'm in my third year now running the productivity coaching program. There's been over 100 agents that have come into the program and worked with me, and I see these 10 common mistakes over and over and over again. So that's what I wanted to cover today to make sure that you don't make the same ones. Okay, so I'm just gonna jump right into the information because there is a lot to get through, and I'm gonna see if we only get through half of them, we might do a part 2 next week, depending on how far we get here. All right, so the first mistake that I always see new agents make is that they don't have a written business plan, right? So we all know that when you get your real estate license, you're really starting your own small business. And especially working with us here at Keller Williams, we really do view you as business owners. And there's nobody that would start a business without having an actual written business plan attached to it. I hope you would agree with that. Unfortunately, what happens with a lot of real estate agents is they get their real estate license and they just think that it's like a sales business, and that whenever the deals come together, they come together. And so they don't actually understand whether or not they're on track to hit their income goal. Pretty much every new agent I talk to has an income goal set for themselves, but then they don't have the business plan that backs up that actual income goal and makes it so that month after month and week and down to a weekly basis, you know the exact activities you should be doing to drive your big income goal for the year. Now, nobody on this call should have that problem, because when we onboard onto productivity coaching, one of the things that we do is we write out your written business plan. And so at Keller Williams, what we're talking about for a business plan is your economic business model. That's the model that we run through, where we start with your income goal for the year, and then we back down how many appointments per month that equals out to, right? That's the first page of your written business plan. Now, the second page of that is called the 135. That's your lead generation strategy. So once you know how many appointments you need to set for yourself every single month, then the next step is always going to be creating a strategy so that you understand what activities you need to be doing in order to set those appointments for yourself. If you're not sure how to figure out the lead generation portion of it, just make sure that you go on and schedule one-on-one coaching with me. I'm always happy to go through a lead generation strategy during a one-on-one coaching session. There's also a video I put together in our productivity coaching resources folder that will allow you to take a look at how to create a lead generation strategy using the 135 document to determine which lead generation strategies are right for you. And the other thing I would say is we have a really awesome tool here at Keller Williams. It's called the KPA, and it's an assessment that you can take. You can take the short version or the long version. The short version works for most people for our purposes. It's about 10 minutes. And what it does is it kicks back a profile of your strengths and weaknesses when it comes to selling real estate. And what's so important about this KPA assessment is that it can help us really narrow down which lead generation strategies are going to be right for you, right? Because not everybody that gets their real estate license is going to be like, I'm going to cold call expireds and for sale by owners. Some people don't have an interest in that, and they would rather do more networking or marketing based. Other people don't want to talk to friends and family, and they do just want to cold call expireds and for sale by owners. There's no right or wrong way to sell real estate, right? The only wrong way that you can do it is by not having a written business plan behind you that actually makes the income predictable. So if you haven't taken the KPA and that's something that you're interested in doing, please let me know, and I would be happy to send it to you, and then schedule a time where we can sit down face-to-face to go through it, so that we make sure that your lead generation strategy is playing up to your strengths, and all of you have strengths in this business. So if you want to do that, shoot me an email or a text message, and I'll make sure to get the KPA out to you. Okay, so that's mistake number 1. The mistake number 2 is that they don't lead generate. focus on lead generation, right? So same idea. When you first come into the office, we talk about the daily 10-4, right? And if you watched the video that I put into our Facebook group this morning, you saw me talk about the daily 10-4. That's like the easiest, most basic lead generation tactic that you can really have. Talk to 10 new people a day, follow up with 10 people that you've already talked to and put in your pipeline in the past, write 10 handwritten note cards to people that you're talking to, right? And previewing houses to learn the market. Now what happens is two things happen. One, you get into this getting ready to get ready, this like setup phase where you're not lead generating. You're waiting until your website set up. You're waiting because you don't quite understand the app. You're waiting because you need your business cards, right? And in all those days that you're waiting are days that you're not growing your business. See, this is a sales business after all. And if you don't have any leads, then you really aren't running a productive, profitable business for yourself. So the key is every single day to focus on lead generation, okay? Now, this also becomes particularly important once you get some deals going, right? So a lot of you on the call, you have a couple deals going and then your focus shifts because it's a new set of activities that you're learning, how to go to a home inspection, what to do at an appraisal, how to interact with the attorneys and the contract to close process, right? All of those things are new things that you will learn. The biggest mistake I see new agents make is that they start to only focus on that portion of the business and then they take their foot off of the lead generation pedal. And then what happens? What happens is that they end up not lead generating every day. They have a couple deals, the deals close, or even worse, they have 2 deals and one of them falls apart. And now you have no backup deals, right? You don't have any active clients. You haven't been marketing yourself. And so all of a sudden that one deal falling apart becomes the biggest deal in the world. And I know that I've been in that position before as a newer agent. When you only have 2 or 3 deals going, if one of them doesn't pan out, that's a third of your real estate, right? That's a third of your book of business. Now, conversely, if you're able to focus on lead generation every day, those things do not matter as much, right? Like if you really master how to get new clients and you're confident in your ability to every single day grow your database and talk to new people about getting real estate, you will be very focused on that portion of the business, which will allow you to continue to grow, right? If every time you put a couple of deals together, you stop and then you focus on getting those deals to the closing table, you're going to have a business that goes like this, very wavy, right? So the key is to focus on lead generation every single day. Okay, so now the number 3 mistake that I see new agents make is that they're secret agents, right? So I hear this all of the time. I'm just going to wait until my Facebook page is perfect. I'm just going to wait for my business cards to come out. I haven't really talked to my friends and family yet because I don't want to bother them. I don't want them to feel like I'm coming off as salesy or I'm trying to pressure them to work with me. These agents end up being secret agents for so long that then what happens is you go to a Memorial Day barbecue in 2 months and you're talking to people and there's like 3 people there that are like, oh, I just put an offer on a house, or oh, I just closed on a house. You will be very upset, right? And I've seen this. I've had agents come to me and say, how could they do this? They didn't use me. I'm a real estate agent. Well, it might be because you've been a secret agent this whole time, right? How many people in your phone right now know that you sell real estate? How many of them have you told that you have your real estate license? How many of the people in your phone right now have you asked them if they know of anybody that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate this year? If the number is very small, then you're acting as a secret agent, and that is going to be a detriment to you in the long run, right? So one of the keys is to growing a big database for yourself. And I always put it this way to newly licensed agents. Think of your best friend or your sister or your brother or your mom or somebody, like the person that is close to you. Or even somebody that you see once or twice, a month or once every other month. If that person called you and said to you, hey, Rita, guess what? I just got a job and I'm really excited about it. Can I tell you about it? Would you be on the phone like, no, I'm not interested. Please don't tell me. And I don't wish you luck. How dare you call me with your exciting news? Of course you wouldn't. I don't think anybody on the video right now would act that way, right? And so why do we assume that our friends and family are going to act that way towards us? Maybe some of it is because you feel like you have a pressure to ask them, you know, to be salesy towards them or to get their business. I would counteract that with, you don't necessarily have to push them to use you as a real estate agent. If you're just purposeful about being excited about your new career and that you got your real estate license and you have a cool app now that you can send out to them so that they can search for homes for sale. Oh, and by the way, do they know of anybody that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? If they say no, that's okay. You can still say to them, thank you so much for thinking about that. If you think of anybody, would you feel free to refer the business to me, right? So you don't want to be a secret agent. Let me give you another example. There was, I ran into a person at the grocery store about a year ago, and this is somebody that I knew a long time ago, like when I was in my, like probably 18, 19 years old. I used to work in a pizza place in New Paltz. And I ran into this person who used to come to the pizza place all the time. And so he owns a deli in New Paltz. So we were catching up with each other, and he was like, oh, what's new, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I could have said, oh, you know, I'm married now, we have a dog, we live in New Paltz still, blah, 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 like whatever, you know, basic personal stuff. That was kind of how the conversation was going. Then in addition to that, I also said, oh, and by the way, I'm a realtor. I'm a realtor now, and I sell real estate in New Paltz and all throughout Ulster County. And he was like, oh, wow, that's so interesting. I didn't know that, right? I hadn't seen him for years. It's like, I didn't know that. Actually, I've been thinking about selling my business. Probably in the next 5 years, I'm going to want to sell it. And so he started giving me, the whole conversation shifted. He started giving me the particulars about his business and what he would be looking for in terms of selling it, and if he would sell, you know, he was talking about real estate and all of these particulars that wouldn't have happened if I was a secret agent and had just said, okay, thanks so much. Yep, catch up with him, tell him a couple things about what I have going on, and then end the conversation, right? So it's super purposeful the way that it started, actually, let me backtrack. The way it started was he said, okay, what are you doing now? And I said, I'm selling real estate. Usually people's next thing to say to you will be, great, how's the market, right? And then you always want to say, the market's great. Why? Are you thinking of buying or selling something in the area, right? Like that's the easiest way to lead into that. And that's how the whole conversation got started. Oh, well, I'm actually thinking about, you know, building my business and so on and so forth. If I had just left it and said, oh, I'm selling real estate now. Yeah, it's really cool. So it's nice to see you, and left, that probably would have been the end of the conversation. So that is one of the biggest mistakes I see new agents make, is that they feel like they have to be a top producer in order to start telling people, but there's going to be no way to be a top producer until you start putting yourself out there and talking to people. So that's mistake number 3. Okay, mistake number 4 is that they don't focus on taking listings. So you should know by now that listings are the highly leveraged part of our real estate business. Okay, so there's a number of reasons for that. Number 1 is that generally when you take, especially in this market, in most areas, we're in a seller's market. So if you take one listing, you will get buyer leads if it's a well-priced listing in a desirable area. Okay, that's marketed decently, meaning professional photography, most importantly. That one listing can potentially get you 3 to 4 closing checks, commission checks. Okay, so let me explain. Normally, obviously, if you take one listing and you sell it, you get paid from the seller. In this market, there is a good chance, if you're marketing the property well and you have a database of buyers, or even if you don't, if you're just marketing the property well, that you can also locate the buyer for the property too, right? Maybe through doing open houses or through social media posts for the listing. So that's 2 sides, right? 2 commission checks. The third one is you can usually pick up between 2, the third and fourth, you can usually pick up at least 2 buyers from one listing. And after all, only one buyer can buy that house, right? But what you can do is you can pivot those buyers over to continuing to work with you to help them find other houses in the area. My first listing I ever took This is exactly how I got it. I would handwrite notes to expired listings, because at the time I couldn't afford $200 or $300 a month to buy a dialer system, and there was no productivity coaching program in the office, so I didn't have access to Close Realty resource like all of you guys do. And so I was handwriting these notes to expired listings, and finally, after writing like, I don't know, over 100 of them, I got somebody to respond, and I ended up, that's how I got my first listing. From that listing, I picked up 3 buyer clients. And so my first 4 clients ever came from just consistently, again, like consistently writing those handwritten note cards, doing it every single day. I probably did it for a month or 2 before I actually got that listing. It wasn't on the first set of cards that I sent out, right? I was probably sending 5 a day for, and was around 150 of them by the time I got the response. But that one listing really did give me those 4 buyers. And that's what I springboarded my real estate business really off of. Okay, so that's number 1, why it's so important to focus on taking listings, because if you focus on taking listings, you really don't need to lead generate for buyers, because the buyers will come along, because they'll call you on your listings, especially in our office, right? With Keller Williams, if it's your listing, it's your lead. So if you are the listing agent on the property and somebody calls into the office, they will get referred directly to you, which is different than many other real estate brokerages. And many other brokerages, the lead is just passed out, it's put into their lead routing system, so on and so forth. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that they're very highly leveraged, meaning that in order to work with a seller in a listing, you attend a listing presentation, which is usually about an hour, right? You might go back when the pictures are being taken. That's like another hour. I would argue you don't really need to be there when the pictures are being taken, but you probably will be for most of the time until you get a bigger book of business. So you go there while the pictures are being taken. Then for most of the rest of the time, you're working from home. So it might be like an hour of inputting the listing onto the MLS, posting it on social media, getting a landing page running, doing the marketing stuff if you're making calls and all of that stuff. But it's a lot less time intensive to market one listing for sale than it is to run around with a buyer and show them properties, especially in this market, right? So again, we're in a seller's market. A well-priced house is probably going to fly off the market pretty quickly, potentially with multiple offers. Whereas if you're a buyer vying for a well-priced house, you might need to go and see a lot of houses and write way more than just one offer in order to actually be able to get a house in this market. And so what they say is, I think it's 5 listings. You can manage 5 listings in the same time as you can manage 1 buyer. Because also the other part of it is that when you're working with a buyer, you are running around to showings, right? Then you have to attend the home inspection. That can be 2 to 3 hours. And there's usually way more moving parts on the buyer side. So you have a title company you have to coordinate with, an appraiser, the home inspector. Obviously, you have attorneys on either side, the mortgage company, right? So there's a lot more back and forth, and it's much more time intensive to run around with a buyer than it is for a listing. So that's another reason why it's important to take listings, because if you want to do a large volume of business, you need that to be primarily listings so that you can do a large volume. Otherwise, you'll hit the ceiling a lot quicker with a bunch of buyers. Now, the third thing is that listings are your marketing opportunity, right? Like every study that has ever been done around marketing and what works best in terms of lead generating, especially like online lead generation, is that buyers are interested in what's on the market, right? They respond to ads with listings listed, okay? They respond to ads where listings are being promoted or open houses are being promoted. If you have a listing, you now have a piece of marketing collateral that buyers are very, very interested in. And so this allows you to do a couple of things. 1, lead generate for buyers, right? So you're collecting buyers. But 2, it allows you to then also like farm an area where now because you have so many listings in one area, people now just recognize you, right? We allow you to customize your signs in the office. So your picture, your name, your cell phone number, all of that is on your sign, right? It's not just a brokerage name like many other offices. Your name is on there in big letters. So we allow you to market your listings for yourself. And in doing all of this, you can start to actually build the name for yourself so that you are the local realtor of choice in your town, simply by taking listings and marketing them. Right now you can send out just listed postcards that has your name and contact information on it. That might turn the heads of people in the area. You can do social media posts around it. You can do phone calls to the neighborhood. There's just a million different marketing opportunities that open up as you start to take listings. Now, for most people, their inclination is that the first thing they do is they start to get buyers. It's a lot easier to find buyers than it is to find listings. And so they'll focus on getting all of these buyers, right? And that's fine. I would never say pass up business or don't work with buyers over working with sellers. But if the buyers are coming to you more naturally from your database and the conversations you're just naturally having around your community, then I would say just let those buyers come in, and then your focused, concentrated lead generation time should be spent on taking listings, right? There's nobody that has market share in this county or any place in the country that does not have a big listing inventory. Okay, so that's the other thing to keep in mind. All right, so that's mistake number 4. Okay, mistake number 5. They don't master their listing and buyer presentation. So if you're going to do the hard work of lead generating consistently, right? So you're going to lead generate consistently. You're going to lead generate for listings and set yourself appointments. You don't want to blow it once you get to the listing or the buyer presentation, right? The time to practice your listing and buyer presentation is not when you're in front of a potential client, right? You should have this should be something that is just part of your daily routine, practicing your listing presentation and your buyer consultation. And we teach classes in the Market Center. I also am working on a series. I just did a buyer video that I have to edit to put up, but it goes through how to do a good buyer consultation. I'm going to do one for listing presentations. We have the templates in command, so you don't have to recreate the wheel. It's not super complicated or difficult. We have the listing presentation packets, right, in command, and the buyer presentation packets in command. All you have to do is customize it and then create a presentation around the information that's already in there for you. The key is to kind of memorize this presentation so that you can flow through it quickly once you get in front of clients, right? You don't want to be fumbling around this. Now, your listing and your buyer presentation is also something that will change over time. It's something that certainly over the years, I've realized certain things that haven't worked, some things that have worked really well, and I'm constantly in a state of redoing my presentations to make sure that they're good. This is also something you should be putting into like a script and role play time. So if you're practicing your scripts, it shouldn't just be lead generation scripts. It should also be practicing your listing presentations and your buyer consultations, including common objections that you'll get on the appointment, right? So there are certain objections that you get when you're sitting with people, depending on who it is. You want to make sure that you understand how to objection handle people. One, if this is something you'd like to work on, schedule one-on-one coaching with me, and I'm happy to sit down with you. If you want to role play your buyer consultation, I know I don't know if they're on this call, but I have 2 people. No, they're not on the call. So I have 2 other people this week last week that asked me if I would help them role play a buyer consultation. And so we're going to be doing that this week, and we'll probably do it in the Market Center in Middletown so that you can, see it. So I'll put out information on that if you guys want to attend. Maybe we'll record it too. There's a million videos on YouTube and in KW Connect of examples of listing presentations and buyer consultations. You want to take what you're good at again and like make it your own, right? There's no like set script for doing it, because everybody's personality is going to be a little bit different and your value proposition is going to be a little bit different. The key really though is memorizing your listing presentation and your buyer consultation. So if that's something you guys are interested in, doing like mock listing and buyer presentations, shoot me an email or a text message, and we'll make sure that we get something on the calendar, maybe in person in the office, so that we can all practice that together, because that's a super important part. And I think that the more that you know, the more confident you are going into an appointment, I would have to guess the more confident you would be to lead generate for those appointments, right? I know that sometimes the agents feel like hesitant to lead generate because you don't know what's going to happen if you actually find a piece of business, right? And so part of alleviating that anxiety is really learning your buyer and listing presentations like the back of your hand. And that's something that I'm here to help you with in the productivity coaching program. All right, so now mistake number 6 is that they're in a constant state of getting ready. I know that this was one that I fell into big time when I was a newly licensed agent. I was the person that read the MRA book twice before I even started the licensing course, because I wanted to make sure that there was an actual strategy and plan behind this real estate industry that I knew nothing about. Then once I got licensed, I spent forever setting up my website, and I spent forever waiting on my business card. I couldn't do anything until my business cards came in. Like, there was all of these things that I was doing to get ready, and I was in a constant state of getting ready, that at one point, actually, Anna Gibbs, the general manager in the office, who was the team leader at the time, looked at me and was like, at some point, you're just gonna have to talk to people. Like, at some point, you're just going to have to go out there and make it happen. You know everything. I remember I showed her this list, and it was like 15 books on selling real estate. And I was like, I'm just going to read every one of these books, and then I will know it all of a sudden. And then I'll be really confident that I can go out and help people. And she was like, no, while you're waiting to do that, this is like the worst strategy. So I know this personally, that this is definitely one that new agents make. They're in a constant state of getting ready. Let me tell you, you are ready right now, okay? You can go out and have conversations with people right now about buying or selling real estate. You're talking to people in your community. People are generally nice, right? That's one. So you don't have to be scared about like screwing that up. 2, sometimes, guess what? You will botch the conversation, or you'll hang up and go, why did I say that? Or why didn't I say that? There is no way to kind of learn from those mistakes and continue to move forward without just going and putting yourself out there, right? There's plenty of times where I've said things and I've thought, that made no sense. I don't know why on earth I just said that to that person. Or I've thought, wow, that was really awesome, and it just came off the top of my head, and now I need to remember to do that next time. There's no way, you're never going to know it all. Okay, that would be my biggest lesson for this one that I would want to share with you, is that you're never going to know it all. I've worked with agents who we've had things pop up during the transaction process, and the agent will say, I've been doing this for 25 years and I've never dealt with this, right? Like, no 2 transactions are the same. No 2 clients are the same. You can't be prepared for everything. And the more that you're in a constant state of getting ready, the days are ticking by towards your next commission check. So it's as easy as, again, the first mistake, right? It's kind of a combination. You don't focus on lead generation because you're in a constant state of getting ready. So while you're in the state of getting ready, you're not lead generating for your business. And so you're just pushing forward and forward and forward the time frame within which it takes you to start actually making money. And what I see with agents is that they're spending so much time getting ready that then 3 or 4 months goes by and all of a sudden they have no business. And then they get into a panic that they have no business, and it starts being everybody else's fault or whatever it is that happens. And it's mostly because they have not been focusing on lead generation. They've been too busy getting ready to be busy. Okay, so this is something that I had to learn the hard way. Hopefully this chat will keep you from having to learn the hard way like I did. All right, mistake number 7 is that they don't follow a schedule, right? Either you run the day or the day runs you. We've done group coachings around time blocking and running an effective schedule. And so if you need help on this, though, this is something I can definitely work with you on at one-on-one coaching. I know last week I coached with 20 agents scheduled one-on-one coaching with me last week, and that was like the best ever. So I hope everybody on this call will schedule coaching with me for this week. I know a few of you do already have it scheduled. If you haven't yet scheduled, please go to the link you got in your email yesterday and pick a time to chat. One of the things that I talked to many people about last week was about their time blocked calendar, right? We're heading into the spring market. If you've been lead generating for a couple of months, you're probably working with your first couple of clients, you're getting some stuff going, you're going on presentations. The key is to, while you're doing all of this, make sure that you're following a schedule, okay? And the schedule should be that the majority of your day you're spending lead generating in blocks of time, right? Where you're doing focused lead generation during that time. And then the other blocks of time can be set for everything else, the admin stuff, coaching, training, learning, setting up your website, doing all of that other stuff. But the key to following a schedule is really just goes into many of the other things we've covered. The key really to your schedule is that included in that is consistent lead generation, right? Okay, mistake number 8, they aren't learning based. So no, I'm not going to say, I don't think anybody on this call falls into this one, and I don't think many people in our office fall into this one, but it is one that I've seen across the board. Although most of the agents, honestly, that are attracted to Keller Williams are learning based. They come to us for the coaching and the training that we have to offer. They're in the office interacting. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this one, but this is basically just to say that there's always something new to learn, right? And even once you're a new agent and you've mastered your listing and buyer presentation and you've gone through the process of buying and selling a couple of times to understand the transaction management side of things, somebody that's learning based is then learning what the new task is, right? And once they master that, then it's what the new task is. There's always something new that you're learning. There's always something new that I'm learning, right? I'm learning different things as being in the business 6 years now than I was when I was a newly licensed agent. A lot of the stuff I've been learning and focusing on now is more on how to grow a team, how to run a more effective budget, how to create leverage in different areas. That shifted from when I was a new agent, right? And I was learning how to find buyers and sellers. The key is to always be learning based though, right? That will keep your business growing, because if you're learning based, you're always learning new ideas, new business ideas, new lead generation strategies that will help you continue to grow your business, right? So the key, I'm sure, for all of you is not just to do a good job this year, but it's to do a good job this year and then a better job the next year and the better job the next year. The easiest way to do that is by just digging into coaching, the training we have in the office, reading the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book if you haven't yet, which really is like the blueprint for selling real estate, and taking classes around those structures. So being learning based is a mistake, but I wouldn't say any of you on the call have made that mistake. Okay, this goes back into one that we were talking about before. They don't role play or script practice. The time to practice what you're going to say is not when you get in front of clients, right? Especially as a new agent, because you might not be in front of that many people, right? If you're lead generating, you're doing all of this uphill work. When you're a new agent, it's an uphill work to consistently every single day be talking to people and putting things out into the world. At some point, it becomes a tipping point where stuff starts to come back at you, right? Plus you're outbound lead generating, so you're continuing to build this way. But at the beginning, it's like a real ramp up trying to get a book of business underneath you. The key is that when you get in front of somebody that you've finally gotten on the hook to talk to about real estate, that you know what you're going to say. The easiest way to do this is by role playing and script practice. I recommend at least, especially as a new agent, at least 15 to 30 minutes a day of role playing and script practice. If you're on the call and you're interested in finding a script and role play partner, either send a message here, shoot me an email or a text message, and I'd be happy to make the connection. I have 2 other people that did this a couple weeks ago, and they've been talking, I think, 3 times a week. scripting and role playing. They've moved forward from their lead generation scripts into now they're working on their appointments and the objections that they're getting from their appointments. So if this is something that you're interested in, I would be happy to make a connection with somebody else in the productivity coaching program that that will make a good script and role play person. I can give you kind of the format for how to do that in a good way. But the key really is to script and role play. When I was a newly licensed agent, I was commuting back and forth to Westchester from New Paltz, and I would just literally talk to myself for like 4 hours a day. I would talk to myself the whole way down. I would come up with scenarios of whatever it was. I'd practice my listing presentation. I'd practice my buyer consultation. I'd practice explaining all of the forms that we have to get signed. I would practice negotiating things. I would do this all day long. And it made me much more comfortable when I actually started taking on clients to be able to talk to them and have effective conversations with them. So role playing and script practice is something that's not just for new agents, it's for experienced agents too. There's just no downside to being able to quickly explain yourself and move people through objections. And that's part of the script practice too, is really practicing the objections that you're going to hear a lot, because there's not a ton of objections. You'll hear the same ones over and over again. And your ability to overcome those objections and either set the appointment still, if you're lead generating, to set appointments, or close for the agreement to be signed once you're on the appointment. The quicker and easier you're able to do that, the higher your conversion ratios will be and the more money you'll make. So it's super important. Okay, and then mistake number 10 is that they don't know or track their numbers, right? So this kind of goes back to the first one too, where if you have a written business plan, then you know what your numbers are, right? You know how many appointments you should be going on every month. And this is a perfect example. This is now the first Monday of a new month. It's the March 2nd. So all of you guys have your numbers reset. I have my numbers reset. Yesterday, I spent some time going over my numbers for last month and resetting all my little tracking systems so I can track my numbers for this month. Start this month and keep yourself on track. You should all know how many appointments you need this month in order to drive your income goal. If you don't know, please schedule one-on-one coaching with me. I'd be happy to cover that with you. But the key, though, is not just to know your numbers, it's to track them. Right? See, if you're really serious about getting the amount of income that you want when you got your real estate license, you have to track your numbers. Because if you're not tracking your numbers, then how are we going to know if what you're doing is working, right? And how are we going to know if you're doing enough of, or how are we going to know what is working so that you can do more of that? That's one of my big ahas with tracking my numbers, is that now I have a really good idea of what's actually working, and I can stop just throwing everything at the wall. I can look and say, okay, reasonably, I know that X, Y, and Z is shooting out these predictable results. And so now I'm just going to do X, Y, and Z more and at a greater level. And hopefully that will be enough to spit out my income goal at the end of the year. So every Friday you're getting an email from me to track your numbers. We might be changing this system up just to make it a little bit easier for you guys. This is something I'm considering, going back to an old system that we had about a year ago, where you would just email me your numbers and I could track them for you. And so I would actually love your feedback on that, if that's something you're interested in. Right now you're getting an email from me reminding you to log into Core to track your numbers. And I also know that you can track your numbers in Command. And so I just want to make it as easy as possible because I think it's that important. So stay tuned for that. We might have a way that we redo things a little bit so that it's super easy for you to track your numbers in the productivity coaching program. But regardless, it's important to be tracking your numbers either way. The year, I didn't track my numbers at first. I will not lie. The minute that I started tracking my numbers, my business literally doubled. And I'm not kidding. My business doubled because I actually held myself accountable to the numbers that I was hitting and where I was realistically really at. And by doing that, I was really, really focused on getting the activities done that I needed to do. And my business doubled because I had clarity around where my business was. So there's huge power in doing that as a newly licensed agent, just creating that habit up front to track your numbers and hold yourself accountable to your income goals. And you'd be surprised at how quickly you'll be able to build your business. All right, so that's mistake number 10. Any questions from anybody on the call? Any questions? All right, so I know we went through this fast, but there's 10 and I was sweating a little bit, making sure we got through all of them. Any questions about any of these mistakes, please schedule one-on-one coaching with me this week. I look forward to talking to all of you. I will keep you posted on scheduling mock listing and buyer consultations. That's something I want to work on getting for you guys this month. And I look forward to having a great start to the spring market now that it's March and it's the first week. So let me see. I will talk to you all next week on Monday group coaching, and hopefully I'll talk to all of you one-on-one this week during one-on-one coaching, and I will see you soon.